Why are you still here, you useless old man? Wait outside. I'm in a negotiation with a major client that could bring in $50 million in sales. Brenda was trying to put all the blame on me. It turned out that the proposed material couldn't be used to make the product, and she wanted to make it seem like I was the one who wrote the proposal. I followed her orders and went outside to look for a certain person, but I didn't have to look long, as they were already walking down the hallway towards me. "Oh, Eric, is that you? Has the negotiation already ended?" The client's CEO, Andrew Brown, and I were acquaintances. After confirming the reasons for the material change, I entered the conference room with Mr. Brown. "Do you know who this person is?" Unaware that she was about to start her own downfall, Brenda kept insisting that it wasn't her fault. "My name is Eric Edwards. At 45, I changed jobs. I was about to take a new step in my life. The new workplace was Jackson Manufacturing, a company that started as a small metalworking factory. After suddenly having a major contract canceled, they tried to turn things around by making their own products, and it was a huge success. Now, when people hear the name Jackson Manufacturing, they immediately think of the company that makes those famous pots known to all cooking enthusiasts. I eagerly looked forward to my first day, believing my dreams could surely be realized here. I was assigned to the Planning and Development Department, and the CEO personally escorted me to the department's doorstep. Unfortunately, a call came in at a bad time, apparently from a valued client, and I was told to get the details from the department manager. Since this was my first job change, my hands trembled with nerves as I opened the door. "From today, I'll be working here. My name is Eric Edwards. I look forward to working with you." In response to my words, a woman approached. "I'm Brenda, the manager. Nice to meet you." Brenda had become the planning and development manager at the young age of 30. I had heard that the CEO had high expectations for her. Given that she had become a manager at such a young age, I was worried she might have a harsh personality, but her gentle smile reassured me. "I've heard a lot about you from the CEO. It's an honor to work under someone like you." Looking back, even though I was a new employee, I was 15 years older than her. It would have made sense to transition gradually, but I should have found it odd that she spoke to me without any hesitation or formality from the start. "I've heard about you from the CO as well. I hear you enjoy going to afternoon tea as a hobby. I often go as part of my hobby, but my real passion is—" Before I could finish explaining, Brenda burst out laughing, leaving me too stunned to continue. Hearing that a 45-year-old man had a hobby of afternoon tea, I had a hard time holding back my own laughter in front of the CEO. "How can you openly declare such a ridiculous hobby? No one would remain unaffected after having something they love mocked." Brenda pressed further as I fell silent. "Our company gets featured in the media quite often, right? I can't imagine someone who changes jobs at 45 has any real talent. But if it's later revealed that a creepy old man like you is behind the product, it won't sell. Your ideas will never see the light of day." That's all I wanted to say. Brenda shoved all necessary explanations onto a nearby colleague and returned to her seat as if I no longer existed. Despite her harsh words, being in the planning and development department without submitting ideas would be the same as not working at all. I tried submitting proposals several times, hoping she would change her mind after seeing them, but every single one was rejected. "Stop wasting my paper and my time. I'm busy with Mr. Brown's project." Without even looking at the proposals I handed over, Brenda tossed them back at me. The A4 papers hit my face. The clips came off, and the sheets slowly fluttered to the floor. This treatment nearly broke my spirit, but hearing a familiar company name brought me back. "Mr. Brown? Do you mean Brown Corporation?" "That's right. They're one of our major clients. You at least know that much, don't you? Brown Corporation specializes in kitchenware. They don't manufacture products themselves, but select items they believe are good and sell them in their stores. According to Brenda, they plan to open a store specifically focused on tea utensils, and our company has been tasked with manufacturing a stainless steel teapot that would be the store's flagship product. The unit price was specified to be around $100, and if it's a collaboration between our company and Brown Corporation, it would undoubtedly sell well, with expected sales reaching $50 million. By the way, the CEO said you should draft the proposal for Brown Corporation. I guess he considers it part of your training, but I don't know what he's thinking. Understood. I'll have it done by today. Brenda snorted at my immediate agreement. You don't have to. I'll do it all. I'll let you attend the business meeting, but you won't say a word. Understood? In that case, could I see the proposal you've prepared beforehand? Brenda looked genuinely baffled by my request. What are you talking about? A newbie attending for training has no opportunity to speak. In other words, there's no need to show you the proposal. Just act like you don't exist and don't get in my way. Got it? A month later, I attended a business meeting with Brown Corporation, following Brenda's instructions. I silently listened to the discussion. As this was a significant client, the product that Brenda had developed was impeccable, both in aesthetics and functionality. It was a product that even I would want to buy. The client's representative was very receptive, and the conversation proceeded smoothly. I thought there was no need for me to intervene, so I flipped through the proposal. The situation took a sudden turn a few days later when a call came for Brenda. She stood up abruptly. What do you mean now? Do you know who you're talking to? Wait a minute. After arguing with the person on the other end for a few minutes, she stormed out of the office with her company phone. I asked a colleague who had answered the call, and he said it was from our factory manager. Given the timing, it must have been about the joint development with Brown Corporation. I was worried, but Brenda returned with a tight smile on her face. Eric, we've got an urgent meeting at Brown Corporation tomorrow. I need you to attend, she said in a sickly sweet voice that gave me a bad feeling. I'll send you the new proposal once it's ready. Go through it by tomorrow. Can I look at it this time? You are right. You need to see it beforehand to learn. Read my perfect proposal and use it. The new proposal arrived within an hour. The previous proposal was quickly collected by Brenda, and since I didn't have access to the file, I couldn't be sure, but it didn't seem like there were any significant changes. It was strange that there were no changes despite all the arguing on the phone. Still uneasy, I attended the second meeting the next day. As I tried to sit in the conference room, Brenda grabbed my shoulders and kept me standing. Actually, the content presented last time was created by Eric here, she announced, pointing at me. He's a promising new recruit, personally scouted by the CEO. He had no experience with presentations, so I did it for him last time. But this time, I want him to present it himself. Confused, I followed Brenda's instructions and read out the proposal with no changes from the previous one. I didn't understand why I had to explain everything from scratch again. I wondered if the client would question hearing the same presentation again, but they seemed to be patiently watching me as a newcomer. Wait, isn't the stainless steel composition different from last time? The client's comment made me finally realize Brenda's intent. The more chromium and nickel in stainless steel, the more resistant it is to rust. In Brenda's initial proposal, both elements were at 20% each. This ratio reduces the metallic taste and smell to a level even top chefs wouldn't notice. However, this makes processing more difficult. The fact that only Jackson Manufacturing could produce such a product was a significant selling point for the client. I apologize for the oversight, but it seems Eric created the proposal without consulting our craftsman recently, Brenda admitted. The craftsman informed us that this composition would be impossible to produce as outlined. We should prioritize insulation and shape and use an 18/8 stainless steel composition instead. I see. 18/8 stainless steel is still good quality, but that's disappointing, the client remarked. I apologize sincerely, I said. It was clear the client was disappointed. Seeing the opportunity, Brenda tried to kick me out. Why are you still here, you useless old man? Wait outside. If the negotiation fails, Brenda will blame it all on me. I stepped outside as instructed and searched for a certain person, but I didn't have to search long. He was walking down the hallway towards me. Oh, Eric, is that you? Has the negotiation already ended? The client's CO, Andrew Brown, and I were acquaintances. No, I was kicked out. I briefly explained the situation to a surprised Mr. Brown and then called our factory to confirm the reason for the stainless steel change. It was as I expected. To point out Brenda's failure in front of Mr. Brown, we entered the meeting room. You're still here. Go back to the office now, Brenda ordered, but upon seeing Mr. Brown follow me in, she clammed up. Mr. Brown, it's been a while. Has my subordinate caused you any trouble? I said, trying to make amends. Oh, I've been caused a lot of trouble. I deeply apologize for that. I'll make sure Eric is properly dealt with once we return to the office, Brenda interjected. With his elbows on the table, Mr. Brown glared at Brenda. Not Eric. You caused me the trouble. The intensity of Mr. Brown's glare made Brenda falter. You've heard about the stainless steel issue already, haven't you? While I bear responsibility for the lack of training, the change in stainless steel composition is entirely Eric's fault. You're still blaming Eric at this point. Do you know the products I have developed so far, Mr. Brown? You believe the words of a newcomer over me who has been competent and had a long relationship with you. Even though she had something to hide, Brenda's confidence in her abilities was almost admirable. If I could be as thick-skinned as she was, life would be much easier. Do you know who this person is? Mr. Brown asked. By this person, you mean Eric, don't you? Who else? Eric is famous among tea enthusiasts, I explained. I had become popular on social media by visiting afternoon tea places with my wife, and my posts became a hit. When I recommended a place, reservations soared, and companies started to take notice. But actually, I preferred enjoying tea at home and had a particular interest in teacups and teapots. When I posted that I wanted to create the best teapot someday, Jackson Manufacturing noticed and made an offer. Then Brown Corporation joined in. I wanted to create something I was satisfied with, no matter how long it took, so I went beyond just cooperation and even changed jobs. The CO told you, didn't he? He told you that Eric had to be involved in this project. Yes, but it seems Brenda thought it was just for training. Unable to bear the embarrassment, Brenda's face turned red. The CO didn't explain it in detail. I naturally assumed it was just for training. Normally, you wouldn't let a newcomer draft an important proposal for a key client, right? Oh, so you claim it was just for training that he attended the meeting? Mr. Brown inquired. Yes, is there a problem? Brenda still didn't realize the contradiction in her story. That's strange, Brenda. You said that Eric made this proposal, yet your story contradicts that, Mr. Brown pointed out. Realizing her slip, Brenda hurriedly began to explain. Well, at first I intended just to have him attend the meeting, but then I changed my mind and decided to let him try making the proposal. Ignoring Brenda's excuse, Eric signaled to Mr. Brown. I just confirmed with the factory manager. You have been imposing unreasonable demands on the craftsmen for a long time, haven't you? Among those demands, the product Brenda came up with this time was too difficult even for the most experienced craftsmen. Moreover, to claim the credit for the $50 million deal, Brenda forced them to make it, saying she had already informed the client after the initial presentation and that it couldn't be changed. The craftsmen were furious at her outrageous behavior. They refused to make it, insisting it was impossible, and reported directly to the factory manager. That was the call Brenda was arguing about the other day. I apologize for the trouble, but could you give us one more chance? This time, let me propose the product I've designed," Eric requested. "Of course, it wouldn't be meaningful unless it's the product you designed. I'll speak well of you to your CO," Mr. Brown assured. With that, the meeting ended. Brenda, who was declared to report to our CO, returned to the office with a heavy heart. In the next few days, Eric drafted a proposal for the teapot he had envisioned long before joining the company. Then, to see if it could be realized, he took the proposal to the factory. "This is what I have in mind, considering mass production as well. Do you think it's feasible?" Eric asked the craftsmen. They weren't exactly friendly, but they did tell Eric in detail about the points that needed improvement and how the costs would be higher than expected. Brenda, who was present during their discussion, listened quietly. Currently, Brenda is under consideration for disciplinary action within the company. The CO told her to apologize to the craftsmen, and she accompanied Eric for that reason, although she hadn't been informed. Both our CO and Mr. Brown valued Brenda's work. If she reflected on her past behavior and changed her attitude toward the craftsmen, they were considering lightening her punishment. "Thank you very much for your time. I will correct the points you pointed out and come back for further confirmation later," Eric said, thanking the craftsman. After thanking the craftsman, Eric turned to look at Brenda behind him. He intended to prompt her that now was the time to apologize, but Brenda, feeling humiliated, thought she was being looked down upon. "Whenever I submit a proposal, you just say it's impossible," Brenda snapped. Realizing the situation was deteriorating, Eric quickly tried to cover Brenda's mouth, but she pushed his hand away. "You give proper advice on this old man's proposal, but what about mine? You're all just jealous because you're all low-educated, high school and junior high graduates, and I'm a highly educated, beautiful woman who got promoted young," Brenda exclaimed. "It's pathetic to let personal feelings interfere with work." Seeing Brenda's complete lack of remorse, the craftsman's anger was reaching its peak. As Eric considered dragging Brenda out of the room, the factory manager intervened. "Brenda, our company grew because of the craftsmen's skills. They are our pride, but that doesn't mean they can do everything. We need to discuss and reach a compromise on what can and cannot be done. I want to discuss things too, but these guys always just say it's impossible and don't let me talk properly. It's not my fault. There's no discussion. You always just email your proposal and tell them to make it exactly as is. Think about how I feel having to intervene and make phone calls each time." The factory manager paused there and let out a big sigh. "My dog listens better than you do. It's laughable to call you highly educated, being rated lower than a dog," he said. There was no way Brenda wouldn't be furious. "I have a meeting with the CEO after this. I'm going to tell him how much you all are dragging down our development," she said, pulling away from my grasp. I pulled Brenda's arm and revealed the truth to her. The CO heard the entire conversation just now. "Don't lie to me. Did you really think I would apologize to these guys? Too bad that's not happening. I'm not lying. The CO was going to lighten your punishment if you show remorse. That's why he was listening to our conversation." When I showed her the phone call still connected, Brenda collapsed on the spot. "No way, I didn't do anything wrong. You're the one at fault," she retorted. "If the craftsman had resigned and protested against you, what do you think would have happened to our company? Someone who can't even consider the company's interests doesn't deserve to be a department head," I said firmly. Brenda, full of frustration, just stared at the floor. A month later, the prototype of the product I designed was completed. When we showed it to Mr. Brown and his team, they were pleased and agreed to the contract. Brenda was scheduled to be transferred to the factory next month. It was the CO's message for her to truly reflect while working with the craftsmen, but it didn't seem to be getting through to her. Every day she glared at me with a dark, scheming look. Brenda's plot came to light just days before her transfer. The same product was being released. When I was suddenly called to the CO's office, I was told that a tea specialty store was going to release a product almost identical to the one I designed. It could only mean that Brenda leaked the information. Returning to the office, I immediately tried to confront Brenda, but she just smirked. "You sold my proposal to another company, didn't you?" "I have no idea what you're talking about," Brenda replied dismissively. "If that's how you want to play it, I have my own plans," I responded. I quickly visited the company that ran the tea specialty store, where Brenda had likely sold the information. They were shocked to learn that Brenda had a connection in their planning department and had sold the information personally. The company believed that their employee had developed the idea from scratch, so it was a complete surprise when we confronted the responsible person. He confessed out of fear, and the company promised to halt the sales immediately. When I showed the prototype I brought, just in case, their CEO liked it very much and expressed interest in introducing it in their stores with cafe spaces. This unexpected sales opportunity lifted my spirits. As I returned to the company, seeing me cheerful in the office, Brenda seemed to realize that her scheme had failed. She furiously threw the file on her desk onto the floor. "Selling company and client information to another company, you're definitely facing disciplinary dismissal." "I was planning to quit this company anyway. You will regret losing an excellent employee like me," Brenda retorted. Of course, it was Brenda who ended up regretting it. After being dismissed for misconduct, she struggled to find her next job. She could have found work quickly if she didn't care about the position or type of employment, but she couldn't bring herself to work for a less prestigious company. Rumor had it that she was contacting all her colleagues, asking them to introduce her to companies they knew. However, no one would introduce someone dismissed for misconduct. So Brenda ended up working a temporary job inspecting products in a factory until she found her next position. She had developed a habit of looking down on factory workers, which led to her being yelled at daily and pleading for help from her colleagues in tears. For her own good, I hope she reflects on her past actions during this time. 6 months after Brenda's resignation, the teapot I designed was finally released. As predicted, it was a huge hit, and production couldn't keep up with demand. Both our CO and Mr. Brown were overjoyed. One Saturday afternoon, I served tea brewed in the teapot to my wife. "Delicious as expected," she said. "The teapot you put so much effort into creating is really something special," my wife continued, proud of my work. I began to explain its features. I made sure it had a rounded shape to facilitate pouring and that it retains heat well. My wife watched me with a smile as I enthusiastically talked about it. We chose to live without children, just the two of us. These moments of enjoying tea together are very precious to us. For my sake and my wife's, I want to continue working on developing even better products to enhance our tea time.